Hey everybody, Dr. Nelson here. So I haven't wanted to address this because it's been such a heated conversation lately. Matter of fact, not only heated, it's been heavily laden with conspiracy and with political references and so forth, and shaming and so forth. If you haven't guessed what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about wearing masks because I've just had a whole lot of people say, Nelson, I trust you. What is your opinion about wearing masks? Because it's been something that it's been so ridiculously politicized, and there's so much conspiracy that I don't know about all of you. I'm not saying that conspiracy doesn't exist. Whenever you have people who are hungry for power, whenever you have people who are hungry for money and for control, yes, you're always going to have conspiracy. And it's naive to think otherwise. And I agree with you. Not questioning that there isn't conspiracy. So please don't leave me a bunch of information about conspiracies. I really, I don't have time for it. And I'm really even not right now interested. I've seen more videos and read more articles than you can imagine. Why? Because since I'm in the media now, I get some of you that send me 4 to 8 videos or articles a day, which means by the end of the day, I can have over 200 videos and articles. So if I don't get back to you on that, that's why. I just don't physically and literally have the time to deal with all that right now. Appreciate, though, those of you thinking about me and sending me things you think are worthwhile. But I want to give you some background before I begin rendering an opinion so you have an understanding as to where I'm coming from the whole mask issue. I had a very interesting thing happen back in November. I got really, really sick, and I'm not a person, I don't share my personal things on Facebook and social media. Just for me, that's just not my style. But what happened was somewhere in late October, early November, I had a close friend come in and visit me. And she said, Nelson, I'm really sick. I don't know what's going on. I have never had these symptoms. I feel awful. I really need your help. I said, no worries. Come on in. Because, a lot of you think I'm just a chiropractor. I'm not. I've done years and years and years, decades of nutrition and naturopathy and so forth. So I really mix all of that. And it makes for a very, very effective way to help people improve the quality of their health by improving their lifestyle issues. And sadly, a whole lot of you, not you, but people, sorry, most of you listen to me are don't fall into this category, but it's still sad to me that in light of that our government doesn't agree that there's a drug to help us through the COVID pandemic and there is no vaccine, that somebody isn't logically saying, hey guys, so you understand comorbidities make this a much more difficult process. So if you're obese, if you have diabetes, you have asthma, COPD, if you're obese, these kinds of things are going to be very, very destructive and will result likely in worse outcomes, right? That makes sense. So what would be the next logical step? The next logical step would be, okay, guys, we don't have effective drugs to treat COVID-19 and we don't have a vaccine. Whether you believe in either of those, let's say that's irrespective right now, right? Let's just say that this is the way the government thinks. The next logical thing would be to do what? To take great care of yourself, right? You can't fight, you can't send soldiers out on a battlefield where they have no bullets. And so if you're unhealthy, if you don't know that you need to likely be on vitamin A, vitamin D3, vitamin K, zinc, magnesium, whole food B supplements, these kinds of things, then you're going to be hurting. You're going to be giving away a lot to any issue that attacks you, cold, flu, whatever the case. You're not going to be as strong as you would be, just like soldiers aren't going to be as equipped if they don't have the arsenal of what a soldier should have going out onto the battlefield. Okay? Does that make sense? Good. So anyhow, going back to my friend, she came in and said, something is really not right with me. I don't feel right at all. I feel really sick. I said, no worries. Come on in. Now you have to understand, this is late October, early November. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was just a slight beep on the radar that something was going on then in China. I know it was, but it was just not something that a lot of people were talking about. So she works at a level 4 lab, and her workmates had been going back and forth a number of times the end of the year to China. And I believe it was the last time they went, late October, early November, all of them got very, very, very ill. One of them had to be hospitalized in China. And this individual said, when he got better, he said, this was really crazy. It's so different than in the United States. I went to the hospital. They put me on Chinese herbs, and they gave me a vitamin C IV. And I want to say in about 36 hours, he said, I walked out of the hospital like I wasn't ill. And I remember her telling me that story and thinking, wow, that's really kind of exciting, how progressive, right? Because we don't do things like that so much here in the United States, as most of you have gleaned. So anyhow, I didn't know for some months what in the world was going on with me, because about a week after she came in, I started developing very, very, very serious breathing problems. And when I say serious, I don't mean like, yeah, it's kind of hard to breathe. I mean, as a doctor, I decided to go to get what's called a pulse oximeter, which reads your oxygen saturation levels in your blood. And they tell you if you hit 90 out of 100 that you really should go to the hospital, that's serious. So I got my pulse oximeter from a place called CVS. It's a pharmacy here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I started to repeatedly check my saturation levels. And what would happen was during the day, I'd be 86, 88, but something very strange cyclically would occur in the evening. And it would start about 5:30 to 6 p.m. I would start to have trouble breathing. I'd have to drink more water to keep my lungs wet, moist, if you will, so that I could oxygenate better. And that would help. But as the night went on, when I started hitting after midnight, it got crazy difficult to breathe. And I thought, what in the world is going on? So when I checked my oxygen saturation at that point, my levels went between 82 to 86. They weren't usually as low as 82, but they were frequently 84 to 86, 88. Well, I knew something was really wrong, so I started seeing doctors, and one after another, they looked at me and said, Nelson, I don't know what to tell you. It's clear that you have adult onset asthma. I don't know what's triggering it. And I thought, all right, thank you. And they all agreed to that one by one, and I didn't see them together collectively. I saw them apart. And they all agreed that I had some kind of adult onset asthma. So I thought, this is really weird. What the heck did I do to trigger suddenly having adult onset asthma? Well, an interesting series of things happened. One is that suddenly the little blip on the radar about COVID started to become a much bigger blip. And of course, we know that sometime, probably after the second, maybe third week in January, it was a conversational piece that was now active in mainstream media. Well, a little after that, my friend came back around and she said, look, I got to apologize to you. And I said, what, for what? And she said, I gave you COVID. And I said, how do you know that? She said, Nelson, the people I work with all went to China, all came back crazy sick. We work in close proximity. I got COVID. I gave it to you. That's why you had so much trouble breathing. That's why you had the little bit of sore throat. That's why you had the headaches. That's why you had the tremendous arthritic type pains. You had COVID. Well, I was very, very cautious during this period, and I want you to be relieved if you're in my practice and you're hearing this. Not one person in my practice got COVID-19 during that time. I was very, very careful to keep my distance from people as much as possible. So the good news is nobody else got it. The bad news is I went for about 4 months really feeling pretty jacked, pretty awful. Once again, the corner piece of what I had difficulty with was really, really, really serious breathing issues. So I didn't want to wear a mask. Given the size of the virus, given the opening, if you will, of the fabric, I thought this is ridiculous. It's like putting up a chain link fence and saying, good, now our mosquito problem will be abated, right? So I didn't wear a mask, and my patients didn't wear masks. Well, this is where it gets really interesting. In June and beginning of July, I had many people, as you know, we historically do what? We go on vacations. So I had many people head down to Florida, go to South Carolina, and the number of people who came back infected and therefore were COVID-19 positive was just crazy to us. So I thought, I got to figure this out, because there's a big chasm in my practice of those who are ill and those who are not. Now, once again, what's refreshing about what I'm sharing with you, and I'm sorry I'm giving you this story, but hopefully you'll endure this, is that what I found was that 100% of the folks in my practice who got sick, 100%, I'm going to say that 3 times, were people who didn't wear masks. Okay? They did not wear masks. Now, I started interviewing other people in my practice, as many as I could, who had not gotten sick. And there were 2 similarities in each camp. Number one, the people who didn't wear masks were either people who, just like me, couldn't breathe effectively in them. When when your oxygen saturation was as bad as mine, you can't have anything interfere with your ability to breathe. Okay? And that was my primary reason for not wearing a mask. And I figured, well, if I'm not going to wear one, I'm not going to force my people to wear one. So anyhow, the people that got sick did not wear masks and they did not believe in physical distancing. Okay? 100% of those people came down COVID positive. Anywhere from mild, where they were through in 2 or 3 days, to really sick, where it took them some weeks to get better, and some had to be hospitalized. Okay? I started interviewing the other group, the people who were wearing masks pretty consistently. Not one person in my practice had developed or come down, if you will, with COVID-19. Not one. And I thought, I'm going to do an experiment because the numbers were just going off the chart in my practice. So I said, here's what we're going to do to my wife. No, actually, excuse me. Forgive me. Let me stand corrected. My wife said that to me. She said, we need to start having people wear masks. It's that simple. This is ridiculous. And I said, okay, we're going to do that. So we started having everybody wear masks. Now, something interesting happened. The next 5 weeks, not one more case of COVID-19 in our practice. Not one. Now, that's not conspiratorial. It's not political. I don't care about any of that in this video. What happened was suddenly we were teaching all of our people, look, if you're going into an area that has people in close proximity, please wear a mask. Don't wear a mask if you're the only person in your car. Don't wear a mask if you're the only person riding a bicycle. Don't wear a mask if you're walking in your neighborhood and nobody's around. That's silly. You need to breathe effectively. But if you're going into a busy grocery store, I'd wear a mask. If you're going anywhere where you're going to have people, in pretty close physical proximity, it's a smart idea to wear a mask. So, what do I recommend? Once again, if you're going to be in an area where you're alone or with people you're normally with and everybody's healthy, you don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to wear a mask when you're driving your car. That's kind of silly. You're depleting yourself of oxygen. When I wore a mask, I got very lightheaded, got severe headaches and nauseous, right? So, here's the thing. If you have a condition like COPD, you probably shouldn't be out in the public right now. I mean, you can go outside, but be outside where you don't have access to other people being around you. That's how you get outside. You go to some place like a big open park or your neighborhood where people are in close proximity while they're out walking. But for heaven's sakes, I've had people come in and say, I can't wear a mask, I have COPD. Are you kidding me? You got severe asthma, cancer, autoimmunity, asthma. You shouldn't be out in close proximity to anybody right now. That's absurd. So wear a mask when you're in close proximity to other people. When you're not, don't wear a mask. I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. Take care.